What's up, everyone? Welcome to our Thursday night pregame show for week 15, first week of the playoffs for many of you. Tera Roberts and Adam Ronis here. Adam and I are taking your questions live in the Fantasy Alarm Discord, and we are previewing tonight's game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers. And of course, we will be covering all the news that has happened this week, and it's a ton of news. Hopefully we make it through. I don't know if we can squeeze all of this news into a single hour because it has been an absolutely wild week. It seems like it happens that way, huh, Adam? It's like we have a week where absolutely nothing happens, and then all of a sudden everything seems to hit all at once, and we're going crazy, and now we're just trying to recover.
Yeah, I mean, this week is as crazy as I've ever seen it. Not only do we have to deal with injuries, but obviously COVID-19, and every single minute of the day, it's like every time I open Twitter today, someone else is landing on the list. So you got to pay attention to the last second. I mean, we already saw it last week on Monday night. People were at Tyler Higbee, last second. Then you find out the next day it was a false positive. So you really have to pay attention to everything. We have that COVID-19 list updated on fantasyalarm.com. In case you're, busy the day and you need to catch up, you could go check it out. But you really have to pay attention to the last second. I'm doing my best to keep the rankings updated. Took the guys out today. So it's going to be hectic. And we got a game tonight, 2 on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So you got to be diligent and just stay on top of things right now.
100%. So with all of this news, I think we'll do things, guys, a little bit different this week. Usually we go through the news, the notes, cover the game, and then we jump into Q&A. But I don't want to take up too much time covering the news of the week and then miss all of your amazing questions. So I'm going to attempt this week to monitor the Discord as we're running through all of this fantastic information that we're trying to come to terms with. So we'll be taking start-sit questions as we go throughout the show. So just keep an eye on that and make sure that you are submitting them in the Fantasy Alarm and DFS Alarm as well. Discord, you can submit your answers there. We'll answer them live. Put them preferably in the live stream Q&A section. I'll try and look around, but that's the best way to make sure that I see them. And yeah, now wish me luck with that. But before we kick off the show and dive into all of this craziness, Fantasy Alarm has teamed up with Yahoo Daily Fantasy this season to offer a whole new DFS experience. And for a limited amount of time, you can get a free $25 contest entry credit after your first deposit with the promo code ALARM. And if that's not enough, we will also throw in our NFL DFS Playbook Pro for free. It's fantastic value. You will get it for free, the award-winning NFL Playbook Pro package for free when you sign up and deposit with Yahoo Daily Fantasy. So all you got to do, just go to fantasyalarm.com/Yahoo, use the promo code ALARM, sign up, make a deposit, and then go to dfsalarm.com, wait for the pop-up, and you will have it, the NFL DFS Playbook Pro, all yours for free. Amazing deal. So do take advantage of that. Now let's go ahead and dive right into the hot topics of the league. I feel like I'm going to start us off before we dive into all this negative stuff with COVID and the injuries. I'm going to start us off on something that is oddly positive, maybe for many of us. Urban Meyer. Not positive for him, but positive for the Jags as a whole and for fantasy managers. Cross our fingers after everything that has gone on with James Robinson. But, to recap, a very quick recap, we all know that Urban has been on thin ice. We're thinking, at some point he's going to get fired, but really not thinking that it was going to happen during the season. But, of course, we had the news come out from Josh Lambo sharing his story that Urban Meyer actually kicked him earlier in the season. Yeah, literally kicked by Urban Meyer in practice. And, shortly after that, Urban got the boot. So we've got all these changes going on. We've got Darrell Bevell, who will be stepping in yet again, as interim head coach. And let's talk some predictions, Adam. James Robinson, that's the big one. It's been shaky over the past couple of weeks, but now I did see that Darrell Bevell said that James Robinson is the RB1. He will be utilized as an RB1, and he is facing a defense that has given up a ton of yards on the ground. Is our trust level going up with this change away from Urban Meyer? Are we feeling confident at James Robinson, and where do you have him ranked?
Yeah, I think I have to move him up. That's one I think I didn't do yet. So, right around high RB2, 14, 15, 16, that range. I think Carlos Hyde was also dealing with a concussion. So, look, I think obviously there's been a lot of unhappiness, and you could tell in the way Jacksonville has played. I spoke to someone who was at a Jacksonville game against San Francisco a couple weeks ago. He said it was 80% San Francisco fans, and Jacksonville just looked abysmal. Punter didn't even come out. So their heads are not into it. We've seen this before. When you have that coaching change during the season, usually that first week, the team just gets more inspired, because, we've all been in places where we work where you're kind of unhappy. And as much as you want to say it doesn't affect your work, I mean, morale is everything. And I'm sure it's been brutal around there. Now that he's gone, they're definitely going to get a jolt this week. They might be more inspired to play. And what better matchup? And we've already seen the line move. It was 3.5. It's up to 5. So I think you can expect Jacksonville to come out and play well this week, and specifically Robinson. It's not like we were really looking at other players on the team at this point. Maybe Marvin Jones in a deep league, but Robinson is definitely the key guy that you're looking for because the last couple weeks have been rough. He was banged up for a little bit, but I think you'll see a good game from Robinson here, and I think this move definitely inspires more confidence to use him if you were on the fence.
Yeah, completely agree. We've got those wide receivers that have kind of been splitting those targets fairly evenly, no one being really productive with it. We've got, you mentioned Marvin Jones, Laquan Treadwell, oddly enough, Laviska Shenault that's not really separating out from those guys as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out with them and if maybe one of them can step forth to maybe be usable for the rest of the season. But I 100% agree with you on James Robinson. And now, guys, I will move us over to the less happy portion of the show, going through all of the COVID issues around the league. Crazy. We are over 125 players on COVID IR. Even at this point, the players that are not even active, we've got players that are on IR getting COVID as well, going on the COVID IR. So that affects us greatly from a fantasy perspective, especially within these playoffs. We've got our team solidified, and now we have to make pivots. So several teams have been hit hard. We've got Washington, the Giants, Minnesota, Miami, the Rams, Texans, Browns, Bears, Seahawks. It's kind of crazy. I think we'll run through the bigger ones that are major impacts for those teams, and then major impacts from us for us from a fantasy perspective. So I'll kick us off with Washington. Washington has not only COVID issues but also quarterback issues as well. Taylor Heineke is injured, although it does sound like he is on track to be able to play this week. If he's not, it kind of presents a little bit of an odd situation because Kyle Allen is someone who went on the COVID list. Then of course, at wide receiver, we've got Terry McLaurin that's on concussion protocol. We've got J.D. McKissick, who isn't exactly a wide receiver, but a significant pass catcher in that offense. So we'll lump him in here with the wide receivers. And he unfortunately is still dealing with that concussion. We don't have any clearance on him yet. So unfortunately, we don't really know. Maybe we'll be able to wait it out and see, but there's that issue there. We've got Curtis Samuel, who's been dealing with some injury all season long. Right now, it's a hamstring. And then Cam Sims, COVID as well. On top of that, the big takeaway as well, maybe from a defensive perspective for what's going on with Philly, Washington's defense has been hit incredibly hard. So, I mean, maybe that kind of adjusts things in terms of how we're looking at those Philly offensive players who have been kind of hit by injuries as well. So kind of starting off with Washington, because it might be a little bit more simple than Philadelphia. Is there anyone that we are actually trusting right now? Even with Terry McLaurin in concussion protocol, he's someone that we have to roll out because he's Terry McLaurin, but he's someone that has not been productive and has been incredibly boom and bust, and it's been a bust for several weeks now, unfortunately. So is there anything that we're looking to utilize from this Washington team?
Just Antonio Gibson at this point. We've seen him more involved in the passing game with J.D. McKissick out. I know last week was a disappointing game against Dallas. He had the fumble. They never brought him back. But this week, I think you'll see him get huge volume. So he would be the only guy at this point. There's no one else you can really trust. And, who knows? I mean, again, there could be more players ruled out at this point. I think what it does do is boost Philadelphia's defense. If you're looking to stream them, I think they're a top 10 defense this week. Like all of this stuff, you're really just going to have to wait till the last second. I always say it, even in normal weeks with injuries, but this week more than ever. And I think if you have players that are going tonight that are playing for sure, you probably want to play them because you don't want to be like, oh, well, I'm going to sit this guy because this guy's going to play on Sunday. I mean, at this point, we don't even know. So it's a rough situation, and you do the best you can. These are things that we cannot control.
Yeah. You bring up an excellent point there about playing the players that are active right now, because you look at that Bears team. We've got teams that are playing Monday night. We've got Allen Robinson out. Is that really a big deal right now for most fantasy players? Not really. We probably weren't relying on Allen Robinson at this point. But unfortunately, that means that there is the possibility that there might be more people testing positive. And we saw that exact same situation that you mentioned Monday with Higbee and a couple of others going out literally on Monday night. So yeah, it kind of makes you kind of tilt your strategy, because we look at someone like Mooney or Justin Fields, who I heard some people are wanting to maybe stream that direction, which I don't hate. But again, unfortunately, it's that Monday night game, so you are taking a risk. Pivoting over to Philadelphia and staying on track with that game. Possible upside for the Philadelphia offensive players. We do have the problem with Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew are splitting snaps right now because of the injury with Jalen Hurts. On top of that, we've got a very unclear situation between these Philadelphia running backs, literally the theme of the season, unclear situation with these Philadelphia running backs. We've got Miles Sanders, who was injured before. I don't think we've seen a ton of information. We've got Jordan Howard practicing, Boston Scott as well, Kenneth Gainwell that was, involved prior to the bye week. So I don't know, where are we pivoting with these guys? Which running back of this group are you okay with trusting Sanders, or are you trying to stay away from that?
No, I'm not okay trusting him. He's RB3 territory for me this week, so I really don't want to trust him. If I have him, I'm looking for a better option. But again, with injuries and COVID, you might not have one, because it's tough to decipher what they're going to do in that backfield. We've seen Sanders run well, and one game they bring in Boston Scott. He was a little banged up as well. So, yeah, it's a tough situation. Even Jalen Hurts, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Someone's been asking me the same question that I have to deal with. Jalen Hurts or Taysom Hill? I don't know yet. I want to see how Hurts comes out of practice. Do they announce he's going to start? How's his mobility? Because if he is limited, then it takes away a ton of his fantasy value, because we know a lot lies in his legs. But the important thing is he's getting a really thin defense where he can actually exploit it. So that one's a wait and see. Goddard, I know his numbers have been inconsistent where it hurts, but he's got to be a top 7 tight end this week. We know TJ Hawkinson's out for the year. Darren Waller's ruled out this week. So Goddard's got to be right there, top 5, top 6. So you're playing him. And the wide receivers for Philly, it's hard to trust. Devonta Smith has just been erratic and inconsistent. So there's not a ton that you can trust on Philly either, even with this great matchup and Washington being so thin on the defensive side.
Yeah, completely agree. Let's maybe we do a little who would you rather start with Jalen Hurts? Who are you feeling more comfortable with? Would you start Tua over Jalen Hurts?
See, right now I have Hurts ranked 9, but it could easily change. So right now I have Hurts over him, but Tua is a fine replacement, even without Jalen Waddle. Jets are last in pass defense DVOA, and the Dolphins also have 4 running backs on the COVID-19 list.
Yeah.
It's possible 1 or 2 return. That's the other thing, too. And they did loosen up the rules a little bit today. So maybe some of these players do return this weekend. That's the other thing to keep in mind. So, again, you just got to be flexible. You cannot make decisions tonight on starting players unless they're in the game tonight. You just can't. It's a waste of time, and you're not helping yourself. So, yeah, we're going to try and answer your questions, but what we give you tonight could change by tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, based on news. So that's the key. Just worry about tonight's game. And every other situation, don't worry about who you're starting. Make sure you have a backup plan. But you can't make ultimate decisions on who to start tonight. And the other thing we say it all the time, don't put these guys in your flex tonight. If you're playing Austin Eckler tonight, put him in your running back spot. If you're starting Keenan Allen, put him in the wide receiver slot. You got to give yourself the most flexibility to keep that flex spot open. And I see people make this mistake all the time. People in the industry, too. It sounds basic, and I'm sure people are like, oh, it's not obvious. I see so many people make that mistake. And it, especially now, in this time of COVID-19, in these last-minute situations, you need to leave yourself flexibility. So make sure you put anyone in tonight's game in a running back spot, a wide receiver spot, tight end spot. Do not use them in the flex unless you have Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, unless you got then it's different, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you have 1 or 2 players for tonight's game, put them in the running back, wide receiver, tight end spot, not in the flex spot.
Yes. And congrats to you if you got Tyreek Hill and Keenan Allen.
Possible. It means you probably bypass.
It's very possible. Yeah.
or auction league or
Mm-hmm.
keeper dynasty. So it's possible.
Yes. All right. And then the next one, Cleveland. Cleveland has been hit hard, unfortunately. If you've been on Twitter over the last hour or so, you've seen Baker Mayfield out there tweeting some stuff about the situation and game delays and player safety, but just kind of explain the extent of what they've got going on here. It's Kevin Stefanski. It's Baker Mayfield. It's Austin Hooper. Jarvis Landry, a variety of linemen. They've got defensive players. It's all over the place there. I mean, it's, and then you talk about, unfortunately, Case Keenum as well. So and it's interesting because when you look at Cleveland, I mean, I guess they've got some of the more competent backups in the league, even down to that third one. Nick Mullins hasn't been horrible in the games that he started, but still, it's a big drop off. So unfortunately, we're sitting here and we're looking at Nick Mullins starting exclusively with Nick Chubb, because on top of all of that, Kareem Hunt is injured and will not be playing, which does bring us to potentially, talking about some pivots. But, again, can you really trust these pivots? We don't know what's going on. It's a very depleted offense. It's a depleted coaching staff. And it's a Saturday game, which I guess is a little bit of a benefit that we'll be able to handle that one ahead of a time and wait. But again, that means that it's less likelihood that these guys are going to be able to come back. So what you're seeing with these guys going out on COVID, more than likely this is it. So you need to plan, if you've got them, to go ahead and pivot away from it. I guess we'll start off with Nick Chubb. We know that they're going to want to heavily rely on the run. We know that that's probably a good thing to do against this Vegas defense. But unfortunately, Vegas probably also knows that if they've barely got a quarterback back there with Nick Mullins, they've got very few pass catching options. Donovan Peoples-Jones will be the lead wide receiver, very limited at tight end. Hopefully they can have one come back between Njoku coming off of COVID and Harrison Bryant with his ankle injury. But, it's possible that Vegas just says, okay, we're going to sell out and stop the run. You go ahead and beat us through the air. Are you concerned? I mean, obviously we're playing Nick Chubb. That's not a question, but are you concerned? What direction do you see this game heading?
Well, the game total is 37. So that's, I think, the lowest one of the year. That line has moved drastically. Browns opened as 6-point favorites. They're currently 3.5-point underdogs. So you're not expecting much in this game, but I mean, everyone knows Cleveland's going to run every week anyway. I mean, Baker Mayfield's been bad. So yeah, just you're playing Nick Chubb, and the more concern I have is they're missing a couple of linemen. So offensive linemen. So that's what I'm more worried about, but you're just playing them because they're going to run the ball. Njoku, it looks like he'll be back. So maybe if you are desperate at tight end, and Peoples-Jones is like a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. But yeah, you really don't want to invest in this game much. Even on the Vegas side, it's Jacobs and Renfro, and that's probably it. But yeah, that is definitely going to be an ugly game. So if you have one game to watch on Saturday, it is clearly the Patriots and Colts.
Yes, and you brought up the Vegas players. So I have unfortunately I have Waller on our this injury list is so long, so let me scroll down like 3 pages here. I've got Waller on our injury list for us down here to talk about as well. But again, unfortunately, when we look at these tight end situations, we've got Waller, who's not going to play. That's been confirmed. And it's weird because I don't think there's any realistic track for him, maybe even not next week. So we're looking at a very weird situation. And Foster Moreau just has been giving us absolutely nothing with those little targets that he's been getting. On top of that, you look at tight ends around the league. We've got TJ Hawkinson, season-ending thumb surgery. We've got Logan Thomas, who, ACL, not ACL now, out for sure. So unfortunately, we've got, situations with all of these tight ends, very odd situation. Or maybe we talk for a second about streaming options at tight ends. Is there anyone on waivers that you could be pivoting to? You said Njoku is someone who could be coming off, who could be a good play as well if he's, again, the only tight end out there. Maybe have that same Hooper script from last week.
Yeah, there's not much. Maybe Tyler Conklin could still be out there, especially if Adam Thielen's out. I mean, Jared Cook tonight. Ricky Seals-Jones, even though he played less snaps last week, but maybe he's healthier. But yeah, there's not too many. Maybe O'Shaughnessy, but yeah, it's just Brevin Jordan of the Texans. But yeah, there's not a lot if you're looking for a tight end this week. There's nothing that's ideal.
Yeah. It has come down to literally nothing, unfortunately. And the only other person to possibly talk about in the Cleveland-Vegas game, so with Hunt out, that makes Ernest Johnson the secondary running back. If we know that they're going to be relying on the run game, is there any trust here in Ernest Johnson? We know what he can do if he gets the volume. It's just a question of, will he get the volume? Can he be the pass catching back here?
I think it's hard to trust him. I think you, especially if Nick Chubb, you want to add him just in case because, something could happen. I mean, I know Chubb already missed time with COVID-19 tested positive. So insurance, but I think it's hard to trust him. He might get more than 5 to 10 touches. Is it possible they run 45 times and it's 25-20? It's possible, but do you really want to bank on that with a game total of 37, as ugly as it's going to be? So I would not start him.
Yeah. And then moving on to the next one, the Rams, they don't have a ton in terms of quantity, but they do have some quality there, unfortunately. We've got Jalen Ramsey on the defensive end. We've got Odell Beckham Jr., which hurt me a ton because I was really hoping that I was going to be able to get a little playoff run here from Odell, who's really been turning things around and looking fantastic.
Speaking of the Rams, Von Miller was just added to the COVID list. Actually, 9 more players for the Rams placed on the COVID list just now.
Okay, breaking news, guys. So now they are one of those big teams, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there are Odell, who was really coming around, showcasing himself well, looking great. It's, odd how Baker and Odell separated and everything was all rosy for everybody. On top of that, we've got Darrell Henderson as well, who missed last week's game with COVID. So maybe there's a possibility there, but maybe not again.
I haven't heard any updates on him.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's one you're just going to have to kind of wait it out and see.
Yes. That affects Sony Michel. Sony Michel, who's someone, if Darrell Henderson's out, we're 100% rolling in that direction. He's looked fantastic. If he comes in, it'll be interesting to see what that split would be in theory. I'd have to imagine that they wouldn't want to completely shelve Sony Michel and just go with Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, it could be more of a split. That was always the concern with Henderson, was him being able to stay healthy, and we're seeing it now. So, yeah, I mean, look, the way we're going, if both are active, both are probably in play because we keep losing players left and right.
That's true, because they're going to get in there. They're both very capable pass catching backs as well. So, excellent point. And then on top of that, pass catching, Van Jefferson. There's kind of been a teetering back and forth between Odell and Van Jefferson, both being very productive and very usable. Does this lack of Odell mean a big game for Van Jefferson?
Oh, yeah. I think you definitely feel better about him. I mean, Kupp is always going to get his ton of targets, but we've seen Van Jefferson. I mean, he had the big play last week. He wasn't targeted heavily, but, it's going to open up against Seattle, whose defense is not what it was in recent years. So, definitely feel good about Van Jefferson this week. I mean, he's in the wide receiver 2 territory.
Yeah, completely agree. And then just the note again, I mean, we've talked about the timing of games and whatnot. Just make sure this is an afternoon game. So just make sure that you're prepared and you kind of, as you're, tweaking lineups, always make sure that you've got those game timings in mind in terms of having someone available in case you have to pivot. Moving on to what should be a quick one. The Giants, not a ton, but we're, again, looking at Mike Glennon starting. We've got Kadarius Toney and John Ross that have gone on the COVID list. Dallas is a team that is fantastic on defense, interceptions galore. I'm starting Dallas's defense. But in terms of the pass volume they give up, we had Sterling Shepard come back, and unfortunately, he really didn't do much with it. But is it possible, would you play Sterling Shepard as a flex?
I wouldn't want to. If you had to, not the worst situation, right? Of all the pass catchers on the team, it would be him. But ideally, I really don't want to. It's tough to trust this offense right now. I look at it from two sides. One is, all right, are the Giants going to be fired up, playing a division rival, trying to ruin their hopes of winning the NFC East? Because Dallas can clinch the NFC East with a win, and Washington lost this week. But their quarterback play is a big question. And how is that offensive line going to hold up to this defensive line? You saw the havoc that they wreaked the last week. Randy Gregory returning. I mean, he's been great all year. Constant pressure on the quarterback. Micah Parsons in the conversation, not only for rookie defensive player of the year, but overall defensive player of the year.
Fantastic.
DeMarcus Lawrence came back. So that's the difference with this Cowboys team. their offense obviously is not moving the ball well, but it's tough to really count on the Giants. I mean, Barkley, sure, just for workload, and you hope he catches 4 or 5 passes, but it's just really difficult to count on anyone else on this team. They just have not been productive all season long.
Yeah. Kenny Golladay being the worst thorn in my side from that team. There's no way I would be starting him in this situation.
Yeah, I wanted no part of Golladay this year. That's one guy crossed off my list. I just didn't like the fit with Daniel Jones. I mean, I know he's had bad luck because he's been injured, but I just didn't think it was a good fit on this team. So, and yeah, we see last year we saw wide receivers changing teams that actually did well. Diggs was one of them. Hopkins was one of them. But for the most part, usually when we see these big wide receivers come to a new team, they tend to struggle a little bit. But I just didn't like the fit for Golladay on this Giants offense with Daniel Jones.
I agree. And then we've got Seahawks. Now, granted, I'm looking at this and I'm realizing that maybe might be a little bit more that is coming through. But we've got the big ones of Tyler Lockett and Alex Collins. Now, Alex Collins is not a big one by any means. I think we all know at this point, do not play him. But again, the effect on Rashad Penny. Again, it just, puts him into a very specific volume play. The results that he had last week were fantastic. And I think a lot of people are kind of like, oh, well, it's a game where he should have been great. But, from my perspective with that, you saw him do fantastic. And you saw Alex Collins play in that same game against that same defense and be woefully unproductive. So I do feel positively about Penny moving forward. And maybe I feel a little bit more positively against this Rams defense now that he'll be able to be almost a guaranteed volume play at this point.
Yeah, by the way, the Rams now have 25 players on the COVID-19 list. 25. So, yeah, I mean, look, Penny did it against Houston last week. Great matchup. The Rams are better than that. But, yeah, they're really shorthanded. So, I mean, that's this season, right? Rashad Penny, I tweeted out last week. We've been waiting 19 years for Penny to come through in a critical week. And look, maybe he's the guy that helps you land a championship at this point, right? I mean, he's looked pretty good. But again, don't be surprised if he gets hurt on a second carry of the game and exits. You got to remember that. But we're not picky this week. Oh, you're active? You're not on the COVID-19 list? Okay, we'll start you. That's basically what we're looking at this week at this point. Yeah. Right? It's just, like I said, I told you we would have breaking news on this show, and we did. And it's going to be like this the whole weekend. So, again, just stay up to date and just make sure that you are aware of the latest news. You're going to have to do a lot of tinkering. It's going to take – it always takes work to win a fantasy football championship. It's going to take work and luck the next 3 weeks.
Completely agree. Stay up to date. You've got the list as well on the Fantasy Alarm website. You've got fantastic analysts that you can turn on notifications for as well to keep you up to date. So yeah, you just got to stay alert and be ready to jump into those waivers. Tyler Lockett, the only other person. Obviously, that's terrible because if you had Tyler Lockett, you were for sure starting him.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Tyler Lockett. It sucks.
Yeah. DK Metcalf, though. DK has been, the beginning of the season, it's so funny. I was actually, looking at a list where people were talking about bust, and DK was on the list. And I was like, I don't know if DK would really qualify as a bust because the first part of the season before Russ came back really wasn't an issue. But the past month or so has been where he's really just suddenly gone to that woefully inconsistent receiver and kind of flipped positions with Tyler Lockett, who's been pretty reliable. How much does this affect how comfortable you're feeling and where you're ranking DK Metcalf?
I moved them up a few spots to 15. I mean, you're pretty much playing him if you have him. I know it's been disappointing. He could have had a bigger game last week. He had a touchdown call back. There was a play where he was wide open. He was grabbed. He would have been open, but they called pass interference. And then he ran a slant that Russell Wilson threw behind him. He was open. It would have been a touchdown. So, a couple things haven't gone his way. Now, I am reading here that Lockett could be active on Sunday. Remember, they changed this rule today. So he could still clear the protocols to play Sunday. So, again, we're so used to – and this is crazy, too. This is like changing the rules in the middle of a season for fantasy football, right? Like, what about the teams that had to deal with these players sitting out weeks? Now, all of a sudden, okay, well, yeah, you could potentially test positive and come back on Sunday. I mean, we'll take it, right? We want these guys on our lineup. But just keep this in mind. Tyler Lockett is not officially ruled out just yet. There is a chance that he could play this week. So I don't have him in the rankings now. But like we said, you really got to pay attention. Now, if you're making a decision tonight, Lockett or Mike Williams, you don't mess around. Mike Williams is active, play him.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure you start multiple receivers and you'll have other options. But, yeah, just keep in mind, some of these guys potentially could be back now with this new rule change here.
Yeah, and that could be some of the Miami running backs, which could be interesting with that matchup against the Jets. Before we jump into that one, see some questions in Discord, and we'll jump to that. I just got the note about the Rams moving up to being the number 1 team with COVID cases with 25. Then you've got Washington with 21, Browns with 20, Bears with 12, Texans with 8, Dolphins,
Browns
Vikings
21.
both with 6. 21. Yikes, man. It is just
rolling.
rolling.
What's your opinion? Would you move these games? Postpone them?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So the problem with player safety is that the more that we start to tweak with these lineups, in addition to the COVID safety issue, in my opinion, you start to get a quality of games issue where if you're there's some team that keeps getting their centers down, and that starts to be a player safety issue from the rest of the offensive perspectives, maybe for the quarterback. So I mean, I would be okay with pushing them back. Maybe we start to look at, pushing games back to Tuesday. They did that last year for the Ravens. So I don't see the hurt in doing that this year. I know there's, money and there's media and stuff like that. But yeah, some of these teams are really struggling. And if we're adjusting the rules and maybe being able to, get players back sooner, yeah, I could see them getting pushed back a little bit.
I mean, 25 players that's absurd. It's half the roster almost. I mean, oh boy.
Yeah, it's painful. All right, jumping into the chat, we've got need 4 between this grouping of David Montgomery, Austin Eckler, Elijah Mitchell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Javonte Williams.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, we don't know about Mitchell. That's tough.
Yeah.
I think Eckler, you're playing. Look, we went through this with Dalvin Cook last week. I think this is a little bit different. It wouldn't be there was a report Eckler could be limited. This happened earlier this year. They said the same thing, and he had 20 touches. But again, It's a different injury.
Yeah.
All I know is if I had Eckler, the one team I have Eckler is eliminated, I would play him. Yeah. And look, if he gets hurt early on, you deal with it. But again, you can't sit here and go, what are you going to do? Wait for Elijah Mitchell, and then Mitchell doesn't play? Now what?
Yeah. Exactly.
So wait. So Eckler's in.
Then we've got Montgomery, who has a good matchup.
You got to play. He's getting huge volume, and we saw Minnesota's not great defensively. Yeah. CEH has a good matchup against the Chargers, and Javonte, it's hard to sit him right now. So, yeah, I think those are the 4. I mean, if Mitchell plays, then you make the decision. But I think you play the 2 guys tonight. Again, here, this is a different situation. If we tell you to sit CEH tonight, then Mitchell sits, and then one of the other 2 get COVID, now you're screwed. So Eckler's playing tonight, CEH is playing tonight, play them.
For sure. Completely agree. All right. Next question. Half-point PPR, 6-point pass for touchdown, or 6 point for passing touchdowns. Hurts or Wilson?
Right now it's Hurts, but this is one you wait on. Again, too, Wilson gets hurt by, if Lockett's out, you're taking away his best deep target. They have such great chemistry and synergy. You take him away from an already anemic pass offense. Now, at the same time, the Rams are depleted. Aaron Donald looks like he's going to play. I know he missed practice, said he had a knee issue, but that couldn't have been a maintenance day for a veteran. I have Hurts ranked higher now. But again, I'm not trying to be critical here, but why are you rushing this decision? Again, I have a Hurts, Taysom Hill decision. I'm not worried about it right now. It's Thursday. They both play Sunday. Taysom Sunday night. Why am I going to stress myself over it right now? Yeah. I'm just going to wait. Let me see what the Hurts practice report is from today and tomorrow. Was it a split with Minshew? And see if he plays. If he goes, I'm playing him, especially if they say he's not limited, looks fine, he's good to go. He would be the guy. Washington's depleted on defense. He gives you that upside with running. He would be the guy. But let's see what the practice reports are after Friday. There's no rush to make this decision.
I think that makes sense. I think sometimes, with those practice reports on Thursday, Wednesday was also a weird one where pretty much everyone didn't practice regardless of injury.
And that always happens. Wednesday practice reports, just don't pay attention to them. Even Thursday, not a big deal. Friday is the key.
Yeah, a lot of players just simply take a maintenance day scheduled on Thursday. So yeah, pay attention. Friday is the main one to be concerned about, guys. All right, next question right here. Need one running back and one wide receiver. Interesting grouping. We've got Donta for well, I guess you I don't know if that's one wide receiver or flex because you only have one wide receiver listed. All right, so the options are Donta Foreman, Damian Harris, Myles Gaskin, and Jamison Crowder.
Again, like, how do you expect us to answer this question now? We don't know if Gaskin is going to even play because of COVID-19. Damian Harris is another issue, too. He had the hamstring injury that he hurt twice in that last game against Buffalo. I know he's been practicing on a limited basis, but I don't know. I mean, they could go more to Ramondre Stevenson. Right now, I have Harris ranked higher, but I'm thinking of flipping it. Yeah. So that one's tough.
And it's not a fantastic matchup against Indianapolis. So
yeah. So Foreman you play, and then I think you kind of wait and see. I guess. I mean, look, if Gaskin goes, he's in. It's the Jets. You know, so it's a great matchup. They're terrible. They're terrible on both sides against the run and the pass. So you kind of have to wait this out. But Foreman's the one guy I would put in. I mean, Crowder.
So the next one was, though, it's Jamison Crowder and the other wide receiver is DJ Moore. That's an easy one for me.
If DJ Moore's active, I'm playing him. I know he's dealing with a couple of injuries, but he's put in limited practice. I expect him to play. Look, I know it's the Bills and it's tough, but at least Tre'Davious White is out. It's tough to trust the quarterback situation, but Moore is just such a good player that he can make a big play with little. So, I mean, he's not as appealing as he was over the last few weeks. I mean, I'm kind of forced to play him in a league that's a deep league where the waiver wire is closed. So I'm crossing my fingers that he's active. But he's definitely, not as highly ranked as recent weeks, but I'd still play him over Crowder for sure. So right now I would go Foreman and DJ Moore, but, see what happens with Damian Harris, see if Myles Gaskin is active.
Yeah, completely agree. And interesting with Crowder. I mean, technically, is he the undisputed wide receiver one in that offense right now? Not really. They spread the ball around a ton. You have a lot of guys that are kind of being, a little bit of target hogs there. Braxton Berrios is getting up there. You've got Keelan Cole as well. So it's not really a situation. And you've got Michael Carter, who is potentially going to be coming back as well. Excellent pass catching back. So, I mean, it's not really a situation where any of those Jets receivers now, unfortunately, are guys that I would rely on in any way, shape, or form.
And the Dolphins defense, I know they haven't played great teams lately, but this is what the points allowed in their last 5 games. 9, 10, 17, which was to the Jets with Flacco at quarterback, 10 and 9. They have just been shutting teams down. Now it's the Texans, Ravens, Jets, Panthers, Giants. Doesn't matter, though. I know those are bad teams, but they're not giving up any points to these teams lately. And the Jets are in shambles right now. I know it's a division game. Anything could happen, but Miami's coming off a bye, and with the way Zach Wilson's playing and you take away Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, it's going to be a tough time for the Jets to even put up points in this game.
Yeah, fortunately, I'm definitely agreeing there. All right, full point PPR, Gronk or Goddard?
Gronk. I mean, look, you can't sit this guy right now. He's been unbelievable, and I know he's kind of touchdown reliant, but that's the crazy part about Tampa right now. All these guys are producing, like Godwin, Evans, Gronk, Fournette every week. Keep an eye on Fournette, though. There's a chance Fournette doesn't play. He has not been practicing, and it sounds like Fournette could be out. So if you're desperate right now, I know it feels dirty, pick up Ronald Jones. I did in a league today. It's kind of, I'm helping a friend. So it's not my team, but he had Fournette. I put Waller on IR and picked up Ronald Jones as a safety net. Because remember, Gio Bernard is out too.
He is out.
Yeah. So
interesting. It's Rojo time potentially.
But yeah, you're going to win a championship with Rojo and Penny.
I love it. The guys,
crazy.
The guys everyone wanted to be somebody.
You're going to see the ugliest playoff championship teams this year. People are going to come to you and go, "Hey, look what I won with," and you're going to be like, "What?" That's where we're at right now.
You're making me feel good about my, I guess Cordero Patterson's not ugly, but you're making me feel good about my possible RB2 of David Johnson in a league. So let's go.
You know what? Thanks for reminding me, because I don't think I put David Johnson in the rankings. I remember seeing yesterday that he was coming back, and I'm like, I didn't put DJ in. Let me write that down. So when the show's done, I'll put him in. Not that people are rushing to start him anyway. I mean, I'll put him in the mid-30s anyway.
Yeah. David Johnson and Royce Freeman season.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. We've got a comment from boat owner. Biggest disappointment in my draft day would be Amari Cooper.
What?
I can see
The
how that would make
biggest?
you
Well,
a
maybe
little
for
bit
him.
sad, but yeah, for you. But that one,
Allen Robinson.
yeah,
As much
Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin has been frustrating.
he's been boomer bust. He's either had a really
Mhm.
big game or a very low floor.
Yeah. Maybe not someone you drafted, but if you got a dynasty team maybe that had Will Fuller, you're in pain.
Oh, by the way, I brought this up on the alarm. I think something's going on with Will Fuller beyond this finger. Remember early in the year they said he might retire or he was going through it, and they asked the coach the other day, and he was like he didn't elaborate on it.
Yeah,
So
I feel like they said they were standing by him, but they didn't elaborate. And
right.
yeah, and Brian Flores was really like,
you don't miss this much time for a fractured finger, and they've
yeah.
provided some. You hope he's okay. I mean, same thing with Calvin Ridley. We've heard no updates, so you hope these guys are okay. But it's been so quiet on Fuller.
Yeah. All right, and then we will do one more, and then we will jump back in, and then we'll get back to the questions again. So we got defense here for week 16. Yeah, getting ahead of the game. All right, week 16 defense. We've got Eagles, Chargers, Seahawks, Falcons. I'm gonna have to pull up.
I'm on a bye. I added the Chargers defense. They're in Houston next week against the Texans, but I don't remember offhand where those other Eagles have Giants, right? Yeah, yes. I think the Eagles have the Giants. That's close. Eagles, Giants. I mean, they could have Fromm at quarterback next week.
They could, yeah.
But I did pick up the Chargers ahead of time. They'll have 10 days rest because they're playing tonight.
Yeah.
Texans on the road. But then again, it's the Chargers. They can disappoint. Look, if you're on a bye and you want to look ahead, fine. But with COVID, man, you could get screwed. What if like half the defense goes on? So,
True.
If you're playing this week, don't worry about it next week. Don't waste that second roster spot. You might need it for a running back or receiver this week. And if you have a bye, I get it. Like I had Denver. I didn't want Denver next week. I don't even remember who Denver's playing next week. But I have a bye. So I just dropped Denver because I'm like, I'm not using them next week. And I picked up the Chargers. But if you're playing this week, you might be wasting a roster spot.
Yeah, because you might need it for all these outs. Yeah, I like Chargers. Atlanta plays Detroit, but I'm not confident that they'll be able to shut them down. So I would still be, I would not.
Atlanta's not a good defense. I'm not messing with them.
Yeah. I know it's Detroit, but no, I wouldn't go there. And plus, that could be a point at which you're looking at them being actually very healthy with DeAndre Swift potentially coming back. So maybe, yeah, hopefully one more week.
Why would Detroit bring Swift back? I know fantasy players want him back, but there's no sense for them to bring him back. Your season's done. He's a young running back. Why would you expose him to more hits?
So on that note, with that, and we've got Jamal Williams on COVID as well. I don't think we went through Detroit. But Craig Reynolds, who came. It's funny, these guys that are coming off practice squad out of nowhere are immediately coming in and having these big workloads from the get-go and being successful. So we could have Craig Reynolds yet again this game. How are you feeling about that?
Good. I mean, Detroit is just such a mess right now. I expect Arizona to bounce back in a big way. Them losing on Monday night, they can't take this game for granted. I know they're not going to have Hopkins, James Conner potentially could be out too. We haven't really heard anything yet. So, again, more if you're desperate. Again, in the running back 3 territory for me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then jumping back to the one COVID team we did not cover, Miami. We talked about it a little bit. They're not hit aggressively hard, but they're hit very specifically hard. We've got Myles Gaskins, Savon Ahmed, Philip Lindsay, all on the COVID list. We've got Malcolm Brown, who was designated to return from IR. I don't think any of us want to see Malcolm Brown starting and utilize that. It's been painful when you've tried to do it in the past. And then we've got Duke Johnson as well, who is technically, as of right now, the only healthy running back in theory. But this is one of those games where you might want to kind of pause on that because these running backs have been on COVID IR for a while. So if there's probably any grouping that is maybe more realistically potentially could come off of the list, it might be these guys right here.
Yeah, because we heard it last week, and I don't know what day they tested positive. Was it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? I think it was reported.
It's pretty early because they had a bye.
Yeah. Even their rookie Jared Dokes was put on the list today too. So they're really thin there. And even Jalen Waddle was placed on it today, which is a huge loss. I mean, it's just been flooded with targets, 116 targets on the season. So, again, with these new rules that were in place, maybe some of these guys come back this week. I mean, we really got to take this day by day, second by second at this point. Things keep changing. You got to stay on top of things.
Yeah, for sure. The Jalen Waddle thing, yeah, that one hurt me bad. Because I love Jalen Waddle. I've got him in multiple places. But Devonta Parker, man, he's somebody who you should have been grabbing off waivers already because he was oddly available in the clear number 2 in that offense, which is, not a bad thing to be the number 2 because 2 has been very stable and he's been able to feed his wide receivers. So obviously, when we're looking at Devonta Parker, if he's available in a league right now and he hasn't been snatched up, please go and snatch him up because he's someone that you should for sure be starting in this situation.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's been good this year. He has at least 7 targets in 5 of his 6 games. So a great matchup. Jets last in pass defense DVOA. So absolutely, Parker should be. I moved him into the early 20s at wide receiver.
And then we're out of. I think we've covered all of our COVID news as of right now. We've got like 13 more minutes to go, so there could be another update coming through live. But we'll move on to injuries, and we'll get started at the top, the most painful. Unfortunately, DeAndre Hopkins out for the remainder of the season. But, it's a talented offense. There are a lot of guys now who are rostered. Unfortunately, a couple of these guys are not going to be grabbing off of waivers. But if you've got them now, they've potentially become somebody that you can rely on in these playoffs. We've got Christian Kirk. We've got A.J. Green. Rondale Moore is somebody who is available on waivers that you could go pick up and take a risk on. So, of this grouping right here, obviously Rondale Moore benefits from a huge snap count jump, but between Christian Kirk and A.J. Green, they're pretty even. Are you leaning one direction?
Yeah, I have Kirk just slightly higher, but it's very close. I mean, Adrian Green is played well. A lot of people dismissed him. He's getting older. It's not going to work out. I mean, I know he had that bad play at the end of the game against Green Bay where he wasn't looking for the ball, but I think both guys are good. Rondale Moore, he gets such low percentage targets, close to the line of scrimmage. I don't know why. I loved Rondale Moore before the year. I drafted him in numerous leagues, but I cut him in most leagues. It's still kind of risky. I know it's a great matchup against Detroit. I kind of think it helps Zach Ertz a little bit. I wasn't high on Zach Ertz with Hopkins coming back, but I think it definitely helps Zach Ertz as well. So, and let's see what happens with Connor. Maybe Edmonds, all of a sudden he comes back and isn't playing. Again, it's a great matchup against Detroit. They need this game desperately. Their schedule gets tougher. They cannot mess around. The best thing for them, not the best thing, but if you are looking at Arizona in a survivor pool or their players, the best thing was them losing. They cannot mess around. They cannot look ahead to the next opponent. They need to destroy Detroit this week.
Yeah. We've seen what multiple running backs can do to Detroit. So, on that end, let's say that James Conner and Chase Edmonds are active. Obviously, we're playing James Conner. We're going with that for sure. Top 10 RB on the running back on the season. Chase Edmonds is a little bit riskier because he was a game time decision last week, didn't play. And now we come back. We don't know exactly how, we don't have a lot of information in terms of how his snap counts would be, limitations, but it's Detroit. Are you rolling him out in a flex in this situation specifically because it's Detroit?
Probably. When you look at the landscape this week too, it's like, he's got to be in that 25 to 30 range of running backs. And again, Connor could sit. Like, he was banged up at the end of the game. We haven't really heard anything yet. It's a short week. I have him in one league and I won't buy, so I hope he sits. Let him rest up, come back the following week. Selfish reasons there. But Connor's been great, man. I didn't expect this. He kind of fell into my lap. I'm going to be honest. I was not targeting him in drafts. He has looked phenomenal. I mean, as good as he ever looked. Just amazing. I mean, the piles he was moving that night, and just so many weeks finding touchdowns and then putting up huge volume with Edmonds out. And just, he's been a league winner. There's no question about it.
For sure. All right, let me jump back and get a couple more questions here. With the Rams' COVID issues, would you play any of these quarterbacks over Stafford? Let's see. We've got Taysom Hill, Justin Fields, Taylor Heineke, Kirk Cousins, or Carson Wentz.
Not right now. I mean, Hill is close, but as of right now, Stafford has Kupp, Van Jefferson, Higbee. That should be enough against Seattle. Yeah. So right now, I'm not worried. No.
I agree. Yeah, the only one in there maybe maybe Hill. Fields, unfortunately, is in that same COVID situation with Monday, so I don't think you want to pivot there. Heineke injury. Yeah, I think you definitely want to go with Stafford, and maybe Hill would be the only other one. Next question. Full point PPR. Need one running back, one wide receiver, and two flex. I don't think we did this one. Metcalf, Renfro, Chase, Patterson, Mitchell, Edmonds.
Oh, damn. 4, right?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much locked in there, unfortunately, maybe with Edmonds and Mitchell being on that list and those two
Right.
being
You're gonna have to wait. I mean, Chase obviously is good. Metcalf's in. What did you? Patterson was one you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you got to wait on this.
Yeah.
I mean, Elijah Mitchell, if Elijah Mitchell was active, you're playing him. You've seen what he's done. He's just been great this year, and they give him a huge volume. But I think he didn't practice today, so that's concerning.
Yeah. Because it's the concussion and the knee as well. And I don't think technically we know exactly what the issue is going on. So we're just kind of in a wait situation. It's interesting. Jeff Wilson hasn't been the pivot that people maybe thought, which I guess maybe just shows you the value of Elijah Mitchell moving forward. Very interesting. Maybe a fun little question. When you're looking at redraft for next year, I mean, obviously, I think we probably know with a dynasty range, but with redraft next year, what are you thinking about in terms of placement for draft with Elijah Mitchell?
I mean, it's too early to figure that out. I mean, it looks like he'll be the guy, but so much changes in San Francisco so quickly. Jeff Wilson has not looked good. I think that knee is still an issue. We saw it last week, and we saw Debo more on the ground. But look, Mitchell's been great this year. Whenever he's been healthy, he gets the volume. So I would think he's the guy next year, unless they draft someone.
Yeah. And then we talked about, let's jump back to injuries. We talked about TJ Hawkinson and tight ends in general, but what we didn't talk about right there is the effect on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Are you feeling Amon-Ra St. Brown to close out the season? I am. If you're not, it's going to hurt me. I'm just kidding. But how are you feeling about Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Again, they're okay. It's the Detroit offense, though. I mean, this Cardinals defense is pretty good. I know they were against the Rams, but the Lions are not the Rams. So again, you're looking at those guys as wide receiver 3 for St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, a wide receiver 4, but you don't want to be too heavily invested in this team because this is a team that got their win. That was kind of their Super Bowl, and it feels like they're just going to play out the stretch here. I know they've played hard this year for Campbell and all that, but they got absolutely waxed last week. And I know it was on the road, and they were missing a lot of players, but you're going to see anyone with any type of injury probably sit.
Yeah, for me, I'm loving the volume here, the target share, and in my opinion, I felt like that was heavily affected by the lack of TJ Hawkinson. So the lack of TJ Hawkinson moving forward makes me feel more comfortable with it. Arizona, I think it might be, it's a volume play here. They're going to be behind. They're going to have to throw the ball. But what I like about Amon-Ra St. Brown is after this week, Atlanta, Seattle, so you can close out the season strong with what maybe we were hoping to get from Elijah Moore, a nice strong finish out from a talented rookie. So I like those two matchups right there.
No, those are good matchups.
And very low rostered. Very low rostered. All right. Now let's see. We talked about Rashad Penny and what we're doing with him against that Rams defense. Let's see. So, and this might be a little tilted now. I was going to do a little who would we start, but it might be a little tilted now that we know that it's Rashad Penny by himself. But if we have a fully healthy Miles Sanders, are you starting Miles Sanders or Rashad Penny?
I think Penny.
Yeah.
It's hard to trust Sanders at this point. But at least with Penny, we know he's probably going to get the bulk of the touches there.
Yeah. And then again, next one, Ezekiel Elliott or Rashad Penny? Pollard is practicing, right? Yeah.
I'm probably still going Zeke here. But if someone wants to go Penny, I don't blame him. But again, Penny could get hurt on his first carry. Like people act like, oh, that's it. He's back. We already seen him get hurt this year in one game on his first carry. We've seen it throughout his NFL career. So I know Zeke has not looked great, but the volume is going to be there. And maybe he finishes off a drive with a touchdown this week. So if you want to play Penny, fine. I understand it. But again, like people do this all the time. They feel like, oh, he had a big game last week. He's going to do it again. Just beware.
Yeah. And then one more to do the little tiebreaker here. A.J. Dillon or Rashad Penny?
Ooh. I'm probably going to go. Wait. Aaron Jones didn't practice today, non-COVID illness. Obviously,
Oh, that's true.
If Jones is out, Dillon, lock in. So
Yeah.
if not, I still might go Dillon, man. Yeah, I'm going to go Dillon.
That was close.
Last week was so weird with him and Aaron Jones.
Yeah, it was. It was. It's weird. So despite the fact, and it's weird, the worse that Aaron Rodgers' toe has gotten, the more they seem to pass. Very interesting how
three straight 300-yard games for Rodgers, 10 touchdowns over the last 3 games.
Yeah. So I don't think, as much as we hear about the toe, man, it's he's powering through it. It's not affecting him that much.
Yeah. He's not practicing all this and that. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah. All right. And then we'll do a couple more questions right here. Let's see. Would either of you play in a league that has a max acquisition rule?
No, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either. All right. And then defense question, Miami or the Bills?
Miami. Jets.
Yeah.
Jets are like so friendly. I mentioned before Miami, basically allowing like 10 points or fewer in 4 of the last 5. Their defense is playing so well, and it's the Jets. Wilson's going to make mistakes. Miami's at home. Yeah, Miami.
Yeah. And then is Adrian Peterson playing or did he get hurt? I don't think we have a definitive answer on that.
Doesn't matter. Don't play him.
Yeah.
Don't even have him on the roster.
Nor do I think that really affects Penny that much, really. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, very interesting. All right. And then would you play Miami next week against the Saints?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's probably going to be better matchups out there.
Yeah, when I look at the Saints, I mean, unfortunately, the amount of volume that Taysom gets on the ground does make the offense move a little bit more fluidly than it has been. So, yeah, so I wouldn't be super high on Miami's defense.
Here's the thing too. If that game stays competitive and it's close, they're not going to pass that much. Now, the game against Dallas, they played from behind. That's why he threw 4 picks and he hurt his finger. You saw last week against an inferior opponent, the turnovers weren't there.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
And Miami doesn't blow teams out. They play close games. So you really want a situation where a team's playing from ahead. They can tee off on the quarterback, pass rush, force mistakes. That's really what's ideal.
Yes. And then one more quick question. Will Robinson ball out with Urban Meyer? Without
Urban
so.
Meyer? We hope so. We're definitely going to move him up.
Yes, and then we're almost out of time. Let's do a quick preview of the game. I don't think we have to do too aggressive of a preview because, again, this is, we've talked about this. These players, if you have these players that are playing right now with all the COVID issues, you need to roll them out. Eckler will be playing. Roll Eckler out. Keenan Allen coming back off of COVID IR. You want to go with Keenan Allen. You want to, interesting. Would you be trusting Mike Williams here?
Yeah, for sure. I'm playing him. Mm-hmm.
The tight ends, they've been unreliable with the split between Cook and Parham. Would you be going with Cook?
As a tight end, too. I mean, I have him like 14th, 15th. So, there might be some people that need him.
And then Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton with fantastic performances in Keenan Allen's absence. I don't think we want to pivot in this direction for either of them. It was great to see what they did, but in a season-long perspective, I don't think you can feel pretty comfortable with either of them as an option.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, they're DFS dart throws, but in season-long league, you can't start them.
And then Kansas City, it's Kansas City. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Tyreek. It's Kelsey. I know they have both had subpar games last week, and, they've been a little bit below expectations. So the question here really isn't, are we starting them? Because we are for sure starting them. Come on, guys. But are they bouncing back? Are we getting bounce-back games from Tyreek and Travis Kelsey?
I think so. Kelsey had a big game against the Chargers earlier this year. Remember, the last 2 weeks have kind of been blowouts. They didn't need to do anything last week, so I do think you see a bounce-back week from Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill is always capable of having a huge game. But this should be a fun game. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And then CEH, obviously, he comes up a lot and starts sits. But again, guys, this is a good matchup against this LA Chargers defense. If you've got CEH, please play him right now. Unless you've got, Dalvin Cook and, who else? Jonathan Taylor. If you got Dalvin Cook and Jonathan Taylor, then probably roll with that. But CEH, come on.
Yeah, no, he's RB2, and Chargers have really struggled against the run.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let me see if we have any more questions before I wrap things up. I think we are good to go. Thank you for all of the awesome questions. Fantastic show. We covered as much as humanly possible. There were still even more injuries that we didn't talk about. Possibly. No. I think we did pretty good in terms of covering it all. Yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in. It has been really awesome talking with you. Go enjoy the game between the Chargers and the Chiefs. And tune in next week. We will be back again for another Thursday night pregame show between the San Francisco 49ers and the Tennessee Titans. It could be interesting. From Tera and Adam, thank you for watching, guys, and good luck with your lineups tonight. We'll see you next time.